Aloha everybody and welcome back to Kyle Astrology. I am really pumped about making more videos lately. I put out one new video recently and that has really gotten me wanting to get back into this. And I've been doing a few readings again. If anyone's interested in readings, please check out my website, linked down in the description below. I am offering all kinds of readings for a pretty discounted rate, so check that out while that's going on. And without further ado, let's get into this video. I wanted to talk today about interceptions in the natal chart, and I'm going to do some more videos on this. I kind of want to talk about interceptions in the chart of Scorpio risings and different rising signs specifically and how that impacts those people. What is an interception? An intercepted chart is when there is not one of each of the 12 signs ruling over a house in your natal chart. And this is if you're using the Placidus house system. It's not going to happen if you're using equal house. I do use the Placidus house system. Basically, what happens is you are going to have a sign ruling two houses, and then the opposite one of that sign is going to rule two houses as well, therefore canceling out two signs altogether, not ruling any houses. So like, for example, I have a Scorpio rising, and I have Scorpio ruling both my 12th house and my first house cusps. And therefore, since Taurus is opposite Scorpio, I have double Taurus as well. I have Taurus ruling my 6th and my 7th house cusps. And since I have double of those, there's two signs that don't show up in my chart lineup. And for me, that is Capricorn and Cancer. And so you'll have a couple of houses when you look at your natal chart wheel that are bigger than some of the other houses because they kind of swallow up those two signs that are being intercepted and not showing up. Where this really comes into play is if you have any planets in your chart that are in the sign of, or signs that are intercepted in your chart. Like for me, I have Uranus and Neptune both in Capricorn, and Capricorn is one of the intercepted signs in my chart, and they go through my second house, which my second house is ruled at 29 degrees Sagittarius, but is all my Capricorn transits go through that house though. And so it's kind of like a wonky situation. And then I also, like I said, I have Cancer intercepted into my 8th house, but I don't have any Cancer planets in my chart. Any planets that are in the signs of the interceptions that you have in your chart, those planets are going to have a hard time expressing themselves because there's not that sign ruling any of your houses. That usually means whatever area of life that sign kind of rules over and things that that sign has to do with, you are lacking in your personality and in your development probably when you were younger. And that really starts to kind of take effect as you come into adulthood. Like your early 20s, mid 20s is usually when that's going to kind of start showing up. And say for me, I just like to kind of give examples to relate to. Having Capricorn and Cancer intercepted into my chart has kind of made it to where when it comes to anything Capricorn, like relating to public image and career and things like that, and then Cancer, just like emotions and feelings and all that good stuff, those were kind of areas in my life that were a little bit underdeveloped, perhaps in my childhood, that were not fully nurtured and tended to. And so coming into my adulthood, I've had to notice where I've overcompensated in my life to kind of make up for where I'm lacking in those areas. And so you can look to your own chart and see where those interceptions are in those signs and which houses they're in to kind of figure out where those areas that you've lacked in your life are and where you've overcompensated to make up for that lacking. Because usually where we lack with anything in our life, we have a way of overcompensating to make up for it. And so it kind of creates this imbalance in our life because we are attending too much to some areas of life because we look at the signs that are they're ruling two houses. We get a double dose of that energy in our life. So for me, that's Scorpio and Taurus. So I have double Scorpio, I have double Taurus. So both of those I'm like fully equipped with. Like I live in those worlds. But whereas the signs that don't get to rule over anything, you're kind of like running around like a chicken with your head cut off trying to figure out how this works. And so look to the signs, look to those interceptions and the houses that they fall in to show where that shows up in your life. Now, also to speak more on the planets that might be in signs that have interceptions, they're going to have a hard time expressing themselves. So let's say you have like Mars and Aries is intercepted in your chart. Mars is going to have a hard time expressing itself through Aries because it's dormant in your chart. It's not there. Or it is there, but it's hidden under the house that it's intercepted into. And so you have to look into that house specifically to kind of like as the lock and key to get to the bottom of it. So let's say it's in your 8th house. That's where that interception is occurring with Mars and Aries. You have to look to the 8th house and what the 8th house represents and the sign that's ruling that house to understand where that interception is happening and to kind of uncover it and get to the bottom of it. And another thing to also keep in mind is, okay, so whatever sign you have intercepted, look to the planet that rules that sign in your chart. That's going to be where it's expressing itself. So again, I'm going to use my example. I have Capricorn and Cancer intercepted in my chart. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, Cancer is ruled by the moon. So in my chart, I have Saturn in Aquarius in my 3rd house. So Saturn in Aquarius in my 3rd house is going to demonstrate for me where I have issues concerning that Capricorn interception and the lack of Capricorn in my life. And I have some rough Saturn aspects in my chart in general, and in my 3rd house, it's very uncanny how that relates to my personal life. And then for Cancer, which I have intercepted too, I'm going to look to the moon, since the moon rules Cancer. I have the moon in Sagittarius in my 1st house conjunct my ascendant, which is like a huge, one of the biggest parts of my chart. And so that's going to explain to me where I lacked emotionally and where I overcompensate emotionally. And it's, again, just scarily accurate. So obviously, like everything in the chart, with these interceptions, you start getting into something like them, you start getting into deeper astrology, because when you're first learning about the basics, interceptions isn't something you're going to really talk about and learn about because it's a bit more complex. But it's fun. I love dealing with interceptions. I feel like charts that have interceptions in them they're extremely complex because you're having to look at these deeper themes and uncover certain areas of someone's personality to get to the core of that person, whereas it's kind of not going to be right out in the open as someone who doesn't have interceptions in their chart where everything just lines up and the houses stack normally like they're supposed to. It makes exploring the chart a little bit more fun. Sometimes they can be so annoying and having interceptions, it's like because of those signs you're lacking, and then the signs that there's double of, it's kind of like it can feel messy, but if you have fun with it and come looking at it from a playful perspective, it can actually make exploring your chart even more fun and realizing that, yeah, you got a dope personality. You're not some boring basic bitch. Not that anybody who doesn't have interceptions is not a boring basic bitch. I apologize, but just saying, I'm a little bit biased. I have an interception in my chart, so I'm able to kind of like laugh about it and make fun of it. Yeah, that's what it's like having interceptions in your chart. I'm going to make some further videos later for maybe the different rising signs. I might do a series on interceptions for the rising signs through the chart just to go deeper into each one and what that's like. But that's the main gist of it. Look to the planets, the interceptions, and the houses that are affected to get the full picture. As always with astrology, you got to look at the whole thing. And yeah, so that's all for now, you guys. Thank you for watching and happy transiting.